That's the premise of Obama. And it's not just the premise of his policies. He'll go to college campuses and tell young people, don't you dare go into business. Don't try to become an entrepreneur. Don't look for the corner office, the brass ring, the year-end bonus. He's saying that's a low form of ambition. You got to do something bigger with your life, which I guess means, you know, be a union boss or community organizer, education bureaucrat or community organizer. It's sort of a different idea of what it means to be great. Bottom line of it is, yes, we need creative new adaptations of conservative principles to the specific challenges that we're facing now. The question is, sort of, are we done for? And you know, quite honestly, look, emphatically no. We're facing threats on all fronts. But we should not be too alarmed. I mean, I mean people about radical Islam is going to take over the world. No, that's not going to happen. Radical Islam doesn't even have the power to convert anybody. The Muslims are growing in number, but not by conversion. They're only growing by, you're going to say, multiplication, i.e. having large families. So in Europe, the Muslim population is growing because the French, you have a French couple that has one child, you have a Muslim couple that has 5 children. So demographically, okay. What I'm trying to say is we are now living in some way in the world that Reagan made. What was America's goal, if you think about it? Why did we fight World War II? Why did America fight the Cold War? What was the objective? It was essentially to take down the Soviet Union and create a world which would be driven by trade. Which is to say, the world we have now, for the most part. Now, in America, we're facing, I think, 2 threats. One is the one you mentioned, which is to say, it's one thing to have a society where you have 90 guys pulling the wagon and 10 guys sitting inside the wagon, the truly needy. It's another thing to have a country where 55 guys are pulling the wagon and 45 guys are sitting inside the wagon. That's a problem. Pretty soon the 55 say, well, maybe I should have to go sit in the wagon also. And then the wagon comes to a halt. So that is an economic danger. We at the tipping point where the entitlement mentality has just essentially ruined us. That's something to worry about. But I think underneath that problem is a bigger problem that's worth focusing on, because this will solve that problem automatically. And that is, as conservatives, we fight a lot for liberty. We should. But we don't think enough about what does it mean to teach our children, and in fact not just the little ones, but all citizens, how to use freedom well. In other words, a free society is not its own justification. Ultimately, every society is judged by what kind of citizen comes out at the end. So if you're getting all these citizens who have an entitlement mentality, you got to ask, why do they have it? What makes them think that they have a right to all this? And the answer is, to them, they don't understand what freedom means. Freedom isn't just having a choice. Freedom is knowing how to use that choice well. In other words, freedom is at the service of the good life, we might say. Going back to Tocqueville, who I mentioned earlier, Tocqueville's idea was that we have a capitalist system that creates wealth. But then we have 100, we now would call them civic institutions, from the Boy Scouts to the Little League, but also the family, the church. These are all the organizations or little platoons that instruct citizens, young people, but also adults, about what is freedom for. Freedom is for creating healthy communities and education and pursuing high ideals and living for something noble. See, all of that doesn't come, all of that is not automatic freedom, because you can make bad choices all your life and you're still free. So freedom has content, and that, I think, is the other side of conservatism, which is to strengthen those institutions. Notice that liberalism knows this better than we do, because it always attacks those civic institutions and tries to bring them down, so that the individual is naked with the state. And then the liberals can say that all the functions that were performed by the family, the Little League, the Boy Scout, all those should now be performed by the state. Because they can't be performed by the individual alone. You can't play baseball by yourself. So all these civic functions, having dismantled all these little platoons, now are taken over by the state, or preferably the federal government. The liberal drive to centralization involves attacking these intermediate institutions. So instinctively as conservatives, we know that they're up to something, but this is what they're up to. You can't make the case for federal power as long as all these other institutions are playing block in the meantime. So we have to strengthen those. That's one way to limit the federal government. Yes?
I hear your point on the liberal movement. I think one of the things that I've noticed that they use is they play on the human emotions and getting their agenda accomplished. And whatever their ideology is, they continue to create fear to get their ideology passed. And my question is, with us trying to utilize the conservative movement to get our ideology passed, what kind of strategy could we use rather than using fear or the loss of something in order to gain something else, which would be entrepreneurial, freedom, self-esteem? Because I feel like that is what is the core. If they're getting to the people all based on their feelings, then we've got to do something to counteract that.
Your premise, I think, is absolutely true. That the cause of liberalism is effectively prosecuted through emotions and fear. And then you said, what is the best way to counter them? In a way, the answer to that is suggested obviously by your question itself. The obvious way to counter them is through emotions and fear on our side. But you said, what is the best way to counter them if we choose not to use emotions and fear? If we choose to use something else? So what is more powerful than emotions and fear? And the answer is nothing. Nothing. Why? Because ultimately, in a democratic society, and in a society of information, well, look at human choices. There's always a plus side and there's always a minus side. You're investing in the stock market. You obviously want to make a gain, but you fear a loss. Which is more powerful of those two? The hope of gain or the fear of loss? It's clearly the fear of loss. If you had only $100 and somebody told you, toss a coin, if it's heads, I'll give you 200. If it's tails, I'll take away the 100 you have. Which would be more, would the pleasure of the gain not be outweighed by the risk of losing everything you have? It would be. So fear is a very powerful emotion. I'm saying that's a fact. The other thing is, for some weird reason as conservatives, we seem to think that intellectual arguments should not be emotional. Totally wrong. Yeah, in the academic seminar, that's true. But in democratic politics, it's absolutely not true. If you read Lincoln's speeches, for example, they're full of emotion. They're reeking with emotion, but they also have intellect. But ultimately, the intellectual argument is converted into a powerful emotional argument which hits people where they are. In the ancient world, there were two great speakers. There was Cicero, sort of like an academic speaker, and there was Demosthenes. And somebody once said, when I hear Cicero speak, I always say, what a learned man is Cicero. But when I hear Demosthenes speak, I say, let us march against David. In other words, Demosthenes' speeches were emotional. They were driven to action. Go do something. Reagan once said that when he spoke, he wasn't trying to get Reagan, you can use that for today, Reagan and George Will. Listen to George Will speak, what a learned man is George Will. But Reagan said when he spoke, he wanted the ordinary man at his dining table to slam his fist on the table and basically go, damn right. Emotional response. A lot of our politicians are too intellectual on our side. The other side monopolize emotion and fear. So bottom line of it is, we have truth, we have intellect, but we should also recognize that in democratic politics, things matter to people. They don't want to lose what they have. And so emotion and fear are powerful elements of politics. And I don't think there's anything wrong in us figuring out how to use them. Yes, ma'am, right here in the front.
You know, you ask.
This is the last question.
You know, you ask what makes America exceptional and what is so great about America. I think a lot of the problems we're dealing with is all symptomatic. It's what is happening now and we try to deal with it. When you start wanting to deal with the real problem, the fundamental problem is what is America founded on? You know, people came to discover America. Christopher Columbus, the rice bearer, our pioneers, the pilgrims came over. It's all for religious reason because God. So what we really need to restore is God in our society, the principle and the moral.
Including thought about all this. A few years ago, I wrote a book, it's on the table outside, called What's So Great About America? And there are so many things that strike me as exceptional about America, not just big things, but little things. You mentioned one, the blue laws. I'll mention one. My mom came to visit from India a few years ago now. We were driving, and suddenly we saw this sign, adopt a highway. My mom looks, adopt a highway. I said, adopt a kid, but you know. And so she said, what does that mean? I go, well, you know, there are these groups of people that kind of adopt a highway. She goes, well, who would do such a thing? So I go, well, you know, it's probably the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis or someone when they clean the road, And my mom was just baffled because to her, this concept, it's a very Tocquevillian idea of Americans taking civic action, was very odd. No, it would never cross anybody's mind to do that in another country. Here's another example of American exceptionalism. You can come to India, you can live there all your life, you can work there, you can take Indian citizenship, but you can't become Indian. Why? Because to be Indian, you need brown skin, you need Indian parents. That's the definition of being Indian. And that's true in other countries too. And one reason the Europeans are having a lot of problems is with immigrants is that it's very, very hard for a Turk to become a German, or for an Algerian to become a Frenchman, or for a Pakistani to become an Englishman. So America has shown over the centuries this sort of power of solvent of assimilation for the Irish, the Italians, the Jews, and so on, even today. God. I think very often when people debate is America a Christian society, they end up fighting about like were the founders devout and did Thomas Jefferson go to church. But I think you're pointing to something very interesting, which is we're a Christian society in a different way, that our core ideals, and by the way, not just our religious ideals, but our economic, our political, our cultural ideals are founded on an assumption of God. And Jefferson, who was actually not so devout, probably one of the less devout of the founders, but when he sat down to figure out where do rights come from, he could only think of one source, the Creator. In other words, we speak about human dignity. In fact, I have a second career as kind of a Christian apologist, and I've been debating a lot of the leading atheists on campuses around America. And they'll talk about the importance of compassion, the importance of human dignity, the importance of defending the underdog. And I can point out to them that, wait a minute, first of all these things in the rest of the world are not considered virtues at all. And second of all, if you go to ancient Greece and Rome before Christianity, they were not considered virtues either. The underdog was seen as a kind of a loser. No one ever thought of supporting the underdog. It's only with Christianity where you have an underdog, Christ, who ends up on a cross, defeated, crucified, and so on. And suddenly, this sort of sympathy for the low man creeps into the culture and begins to transform the culture. So I think you're quite right that America is standing